steep decline as budget transparency plunges to 22%. Also, Securities and Exchange Commission warns unlicensed social media content creators to desist from offering financial and investment advice.
There's a thin line between what they are doing and the license activity, which is investment advisory, which requires that you have a license from the SEC before you can do that.
Plus, government targets 50% LPG access by 2030 as NPA and Energy Ministry intensify push for clean cooking and expanded energy infrastructure.
One of the major complaints had to do with the LPG transporters complaining about constant harassment by security agencies, particularly in the Western Corridor.
I am Christabel Success Trevor. We'll bring you details of our headlines and our story shortly. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us here on 3FM. Now, Ghana's budget transparency score has plummeted from 46% in 2023 to 22% in 2025, falling significantly below the sub-Saharan African average of 38%. According to the latest open budget survey by the International Budget Partnership, the following 3 Business News Desk reports has more.
The Independent report attributed the sharp decline to several delays by the executive in publishing critical online documents, including the executive's budget proposal, the citizens' budget, and inconsistent in-year reports. While the survey highlighted marginal progress in public participation up to 22%, and institutional oversight up to 33%, civil society organization Send Ghana warned that the overarching lack of openness heavily restricts citizens from tracking public spending and holding state entities accountable. To rectify the trend, the International Budget Partnership recommends immediate online publishing reforms and the establishment of an independent, non-partisan fiscal institution to strengthen weak parliamentary oversight.
Now, the Securities and Exchange Commission says it is taking steps to regulate the provision of investment advice, particularly on social media, warning that such services should only be offered by licensed professionals. The regulator says the growing trend of content creators providing investment guidance online poses potential risk to the public, especially where advice is given without the requisite expertise or regulatory approval. Speaking to the media, the Deputy Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Mensah Thompson, said only individuals and entities licensed by the Commission are authorized to offer investment advice. He urged unlicensed persons to refrain from presenting themselves as investment advisors, stressing that the move is aimed at protecting investors and safeguarding the integrity of Ghana's capital markets.
It's something that we are discussing to see how we deal with it, because we acknowledge that these people are helping bring publicity and attention to the capital market. They are helping educate the public. But there's a thin line between what they are doing and the license activity, which is investment advisory, which requires that you have a license from the SEC before you can do that. And so we're trying to think of how to come up with a set of rules that will define the clear lines between advocacy and investment advisory. Then we'll see what sort of framework we'll put in place so that people who genuinely want to engage in publicity, influencing, or advocacy in the capital market space can be properly guided.
That was Deputy Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Mensah Thompson there. Government says it is stepping up efforts to increase the use of liquefied petroleum gas across the country, with the target of ensuring that at least half of Ghanaians have access to LPG by 2030. Authorities believe increased private sector investment in storage and transportation infrastructure, alongside ongoing policy interventions, will help accelerate the country's transition to cleaner cooking fuels.
According to Chief Executive of the National Petroleum Authority, NPA, Godwin Edujitamaklo, investments in new LPG vessels and storage facilities, coupled with the implementation of the cylinder recirculation model, will strengthen the downstream petroleum sector and improve access to clean cooking fuel. He adds that the NPA remains committed to ensuring the safe regulation, monitoring and distribution of petroleum products across the country.
Over the course of the rest of the year, NPA, in collaboration with stakeholders, will undertake a series of activities, including nationwide public education campaigns. One of the major complaints had to do with the LPG transporters, complaining about constant harassment by security agencies, particularly in the Western Corridor. So we had to go and engage the Western security commanders, particularly the police leadership, on how best to help resolve that constant harassment.
Meanwhile, Executive Director at the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, CEMSE, Benjamin Nsia, is calling on government to introduce targeted incentive packages for investors to boost liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) penetration across underserved areas in Ghana.
We think that to be able to increase the penetration, there could be some form of subsidy for rural LPG users, especially households with lower income. They may need to have some subsidies, and incentives must also be provided to investors and business persons who may want to put out cylinder exchange points and other LPG refilling plants across on access areas or areas that do not have LPG infrastructure. I think that is so critical for us to be able to penetrate properly. And lastly, at CEMSE, we also think that LPG needs more promotion. There's lack of awareness of its importance, and the lack of knowledge among certain populations in Ghana is the reason people continue to use wood fuel or other bio-related fuel that do have health and environmental impact.
Benjamin Nsia is Executive Director at CEMSE. We'll now take a look at how the cedi is faring against major trading currencies and how some of key commodities are also faring on the global market.
The bank foreign exchange market, the dollar is selling at 11 cedis, 78 pesos. It lost 5 pesos. The British pound is selling at 15 cedis, 75 pesos. It lost 5 pesos. The euro is selling at 13 cedis, 59 pesos. It also lost 7 pesos. However, be guided that these figures could be higher at a forex bureau near you. The global commodities market, Brent crude is trading at $91.49 per barrel. Gold is trading at $4,267.34 per ounce, down by $62.83. Cocoa is trading at $3,831 per ton.
That'll be all for business news on Sunrise. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com.